Hello, this is Nick here, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I got some rankings for you. We're going to break it down. This is my running back rankings for the upcoming fantasy football season. Now, there's a lot of things you look at with a running back. First off, it's kind of like a upside times safe type deal for most people. And in tier one, we got the healthy, likely league winner type running backs. So everyone knows Jonathan Taylor, beast of last more involved. Nope, it was all Taylor. And honestly, I don't see anything changing behind a good offensive line still with a similar level of QB play and a similar core of talent around him. Jonathan Taylor should dominate once again, barring injury. Now, I actually think Christian McCaffrey is the higher upside player, though. And he's my number 2 running back. And when you look at Christian McCaffrey, when he's healthy, he is the best halfback in the league at scoring points. His receiving upside, it's like you got a top receiver and a top running back on your roster when he's healthy. Then in tier 2, this is our potential breakout or return to form league winners. Now, first off, we're going to start with Dalvin Cook. He is in a new offense, which some people see as kind of a risk factor. I don't. I see Cook getting more receiving work and staying healthier while retaining most of his groundwork. He's in a high-powered offense now. I think they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to be more aggressive, and I think that's going to lead to more Dalvin Cook touchdowns. So you definitely can see that. Now, someone I have listed here who I feel like is at a big risk to get hurt again, Derrick Henry. I'm concerned. He's the king. If he stays healthy, we know what we get with him. Tons of touchdowns, tons of rushing volume, but he's on the wrong side of 28. And he got hurt last year, and he doesn't bring any receiving upside to the table. So in a PPR league, he's definitely not it. And then we have Joe Mixon here. Now, Joe Mixon was healthy all of last year, and we saw what we can get from him. And his offensive line just got a huge upgrade. His offense is insane. He's one of the best offensive teams in the league. 5 very easily. Austin Eckler. They drafted Isaiah Spiller, which concerns me slightly. And last year, he had a bunch of tiny, small injuries that kind of plagued him throughout the year. They had to rest him in trainings a lot, and I'm worried maybe that's indicative of the weird calf things he'd have going on, indicative of a potential injury he could sustain this year, but maybe not. It's more of a speculative thing. He's likely to return to a big role, though, and I don't see any issue with taking Eckler in that high-powered offense. So that's our number 6 running back. Now, Najee Harris is a weird one for me. He's an incredible, young, talented running back who receives it, he rushes it, he looks great. But the question mark comes with his weird QB situation and his horrifically bad offensive line. As my number 7 halfback, you expect better than that on offense. Now, Alvin Kamara, the legal issues, I don't think they're a big deal, but if he randomly gets suspended for the playoffs, you got fucked. And that's just the best way I can put it. So that's why he's below guys like Harris and Henry. Because usually he wouldn't be, especially in PPR. But if he plays the whole year, if he finishes top 5, that would surprise nobody. Then behind him is like a poor man's Kamara. Not really even. It's not a poor man's Kamara. It's kind of just like young Kamara. It's a young Kamara. He has the elusiveness. He has all the burst. It's DeAndre Swift. 3rd-year breakout candidate in an offense that only got better. Maybe he'll lose a little receiving work because there's more good receivers in this team now, on this team that are going to get touches. But when you really look at it, that just probably means more touchdowns for him. And it's still one of the best offensive lines, underrated Lions O-line. Now, this is a guy who I think could finish top 5, surprise people. Number 9 running back, Aaron Jones. Without Devontae Smith Adams, he is a top 5 halfback on average. So you got to look at that, and you got to look at what's there. He might be in a slight committee with A.J. Dillon, but here's the thing. Aaron Jones, there's a real possibility he is the best receiving threat on the Packers right now. And when you look at that, Aaron Jones could get a lot of those vacated targets. And then you got Nick Chubb, who Cleveland loves. All right. They love Nick Chubb. He's going to be the heart of their offense. He's the number 10 guy, but a lot of question marks with the offense. Is Deshaun going to play? Who knows? Right. Hunt might leave, though. That's good for him. Maybe he'll get some receiving work if Hunt leaves. Now, this is the tier 3 running backs with a risk factor involved. First, you look at James Conner. Now, this is a running back who I don't really see finishing top 5, but also if he plays the whole year, I don't see him finishing lower than 12. So it's a not low upside, but low upside for top 25, but a high floor because his role is very solid in a good offense. Fournette showed up overweight. They added Rachaad White. Fournette's number 12 on my list. He's going to take some receiving volume away, lose some of that from Rachaad White, I think. I don't know. I don't think his role is as secure as people think it is. We'll see. There's a good chance it is, but there's always a possibility he loses out on some value. Ezekiel Elliott is my 13th. He's in a committee, but he's still getting paid. He's still a top-end finisher on average and a good offense. So don't be afraid to take him in the 30 range he's going in. Now we have Javonte Williams at 14. This might ruffle some feathers, but I think Javonte Williams might be part of a committee again. The offense is better at least, but it might still be a committee. So it might take a while for him to completely win the trust on third down, rushes into the end zone, stuff like that. So you might be out a second-round pick for a mediocre or running back 2 for half the year. But if you make the playoffs with him, he's an RB1 probably for the playoffs. So that's why I have him where I do. This is tier 3.5. And I'm not exactly saying these are the guys who are ranked 15th, 16th, 17th, but I think 18th. But these are guys who I think have upside to go anywhere from 30th to 1st because they just are young, dynamic players who could surprise some people, or they could flop. That's what this tier is about. So first we have Breece Hall. Zach Wilson did get hurt, but it wasn't as serious as we thought. So that isn't going to move him down my rankings at all, thankfully. He's young, he's talented, 3-down running back. You can't ignore Breece Hall. I mean, he's going to be a guy who you pick. Maybe he finishes top 10, top 5. He also could just be a mediocre running back too. You wasted a 4th-round pick on. But when you're that 4th, 3rd round, running back ones are hard to find, and he could be one. So that is definitely something to keep your eyes on. Now, Travis Etienne Jr. If James Robinson's back healthy, there's a chance he doesn't fully take over that RB1 role for rushing. But he's definitely going to win that receiving job. He might get some targets out of the slot too, which is interesting because they've worked him out there before, and that means he could begin 8, 9, 10 catches a game total, being that kind of all-around utility Kamara type thing. So Etienne's definitely someone you need to look at, especially for pick 50, 60, where he's going right now. Elijah Mitchell, he's the clear-cut running back 1 in San Fran. We know that's a high-volume role with lots of points, regardless of who runs there. So you definitely got to keep your eye on Mitchell. Because if you don't, and he plays the whole year, he's going to be good. But there is injury concerns with him. I think he had a minor injury in preseason already. So there's a chance Mitchell's hurt all year. So just keep that in mind if you go for Mitchell. Now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I really like him where he's going. He's going in the 70s right now. Because really he missed time last year. He burnt some people. He's had health issues, but last year he got hurt in camp. He was 20 pounds under the weight he was supposed to be because of appendicitis and illness. And this year he's fully healthy. A bunch of vacated targets from Hill leaving. Granted, they brought in Juju and Sky Moore, MVS. They brought in guys. but there's targets there available, and Hilaire might get some of them. Not to mention, he's the front runner at halfback for a high-powered offense. So you always got to look at that and say, decent floor, high upside. Edwards-Hilaire at 77, that's a good pick. These are risky. These are 4 risky halfbacks who might be RB1s, but have too much risk factor for me. The upside doesn't justify it, in my opinion. And some of these names might surprise you, but you're going to find out. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, Cam Akers is coming off an Achilles injury. His yards per carry halved when he came back last year, and Henderson Jr. looked great, and he's still there. All right, so there's a chance it's a committee, and there's a chance Henderson Jr. is the guy you really want to draft. Now, Saquon Barkley is a guy who I won't draft in the second, late second, early third. The upside is there, but he's been hurt every fucking year. Every year he's hurt. He's worse than Christian McCaffrey when it comes to injuries. And he doesn't look as explosive in that Giants offense. I know they added a solid run blocker. They have a new offensive coach. Those are all positives. But you also got to just think, I mean, Barkley is injury prone, and maybe he's lost some explosiveness from injury on top of injury. Here's David Montgomery. He's good, but his offense is horrific. That's all I'm going to say. They probably aren't going to score much, which means his upside is very low, especially for where he's going. Miles Sanders, historically, with a team that runs a committee at halfback, hurts his value. Then you have Jalen Hurts, who runs the ball as well. All these factors make me not like Miles Sanders that much. Here's Dobbins. Dobbins is coming off an injury in a read option system where he loses rushing volume to Lamar. When you really look at that, you look at that carefully, it's not a good look. I mean, there's a chance he isn't as good as he used to be, and there's a chance he doesn't get the volume you would expect. Now, Gibson, he fumbled some last year. He's coming into his third year, I'm pretty sure, and the coaching staff doesn't really feel like they're committed to him. They drafted Robinson in round 3, and they re-signed McKissick. So those are 2 different players. Robinson could threaten the rushing role, and McKissick could threaten the receiving role. And you look at him, he's getting surrounded by other running backs who could cut into his workload. You saw last year they didn't really trust him fully. Tier 5. Wait, no, there's one more player in Tier 4. Josh Jacobs. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. He's playing in the preseason, and Zamir White was just brought in. Clearly, there's a chance they're not committed to him, which means he could definitely not see a prime role in the offense. But also, they're a passing offense. They brought in Adams. They brought in Waller. Well, they brought Waller back because he was hurt most of last year. They still have Renfro. I mean, maybe that opens things up for him, but also, I don't know. I don't trust him. Now, Tier 5, these are running backs who are good handcuffs or solid RB2s or swings for the fences. A.J. Dillon had a solid role last year, and if Jones gets hurt, he's the clear RB1 on the team, which means he'll score a ton. Solid floor with a high ceiling. That's the type of player you want to draft. Cordell Patterson should still see the same role he had last year. There's no one really threatening that gadget wide receiver running back hybrid role that they tailored for Cordell. And people say, well, he's old. He's like in his 30s. Yeah, but most of his career, he's been a kick returner or a wide receiver, and he hasn't been getting a ton of volume throughout his career. So this is like his second year as like a running back. And when you think of it that way, and you think of how many touches he's had, it's not a concern at all. Tony Pollard's here. He's a flex level halfback, but if he overtakes Zeke, he's an RB1. So you definitely have to look at Pollard with some love. I mean, because he's going to be part of a good offense, high upside, mid floor, late in the draft. James Cook, I definitely could see him being the receiving back day 1 in Buffalo, and then eventually overtaking for the rushing role too. He's the most likely RB to give you value in Buffalo, so you should definitely look at him. Then there's Kenneth Walker, who I like more. who you could look at, guy with tremendous upside. Carroll likes to run the ball, explosive. I think it might take him a bit, but eventually I think he's going to take over that running back role fully and become the guy in that backfield. Even though it's not a great offense, the touches will be there for him, and he's a talented player. So keep your eyes on Kenneth because he's a late round pick that you might hit big on. Chase Edmonds is the likely starter in Miami. I see him as that like high floor RB2 lock him in type guy late in the draft. If you just really need someone who you think you can put in there who can get you 10 points, Edmonds will probably be that guy in PPR. Rashad Penny, it's the same thing I said about Walker, but I think he's less likely to keep that role. But if he balls out, Penny could definitely be that running back, so keep your eye on him. Ramondre Stevenson may take over New England's backfield. I like him more than Harris. All the things they've done have signaled to me that they don't like Harris at all, and they're going to move away from him. Melvin Gordon still has a solid role in a good offense. He's probably going to be that power back for that offense, still get touches, be part of a committee. Now, James Robinson's here. If he's back to his usual self and is explosive from that injury, he could retain that starting rushing role in Jacksonville and still be somewhat productive. There's a chance he doesn't, though. And I'm not huge on him, but like late in the draft, what else are you going to look for? J.D. McKissick likely is still going to be the receiving back in Washington. So, I mean, he's that low ceiling, high floor, get you 8, 9, 10 points if you need it on a bye week type guy. So, I mean, that's definitely someone you should look at if you really desperately need someone to put some points up and you have a bye week or something. Dameon Pierce, he could take over Houston's backfield. He's a rookie. You draft him, you stash him on your bench. If he breaks out, he might be a good RB2 or a flex guy. And when you're picking in the 120s, that is a guy you definitely want to have. Now we have Alexander Madison. He's a great handcuff to have. If you have Cook, I implore you to draft Madison too. People say handcuffs lower your upside. You should pick other people's handcuffs. But to those people, I say you're stupid, because why would you not want the running back that's the backup to your guy? Because if your guy gets hurt, you don't want to lose all the value of that first round pick. And with a guy like Madison, you can feel confident heading into the next week if he's your starter until Cook's back. So definitely do that. Here's tier 5.5. And this is basically only has one player. It's basically my I don't know what to do with this player tier because the situation's still unfolding. It's Kareem Hunt. He's a clear RB1 if they trade him. All right. So if he gets traded, just know he's up there. He could be a league winner late in the 7th round. He could hold out, though. And if he holds out, he might not come back. But there's a good chance he's either going to come back to Cleveland and be a solid RB2, or he'll get traded and be an RB1. So I'd actually implore you guys to look at Kareem Hunt, draft him. You could be getting no value, but you're really swinging for that upside. These are not my guys. These are not my guys. We've got Devin Singletary. He's probably at best going to be a 15 rush, 50 yard, 1 touchdown guy. That's like his top tier. And then you have Damian Harris. He might lose his job, and he was touchdown dependent already in an offense that I'm not a huge fan of. So you look at it, right? There's not a lot of upside with Harris, and there's all these question marks, and he's going in the 70s. You don't want Harris on your roster, period. Now, here's just guys I don't really see getting a chance later in the year. Either they're just not going to be there, they're not going to win a job, or I just don't see him being a factor. Ronald Jones, look, at best, he's going to be part of a committee. Like, that is the top result that Ronald Jones could get you. Michael Carter, at best, you're getting a receiving back, but Hall could completely take over that backfield. Mostert, he's probably not even going to get involved in that offense. I don't see anything he can do that Chase Edmonds can't, and he's injury prone. Naheem Hines, the best you're hoping for is a solid receiving upside, and there's no guarantee that Jonathan Taylor doesn't just eat up all the touches. Jamal Williams, not a high upside guy either. I mean, there's a decent chance he splits time with Swift and gets you like a solid touchdown dependent halfback, maybe a like bye week filler player that you can put into your lineup. He's not awful, but I just don't see any upside. Isaiah Spiller, he's behind Eckler. Maybe he could carve out a role, but that's an uphill battle, and you're going to have to wait on him or wait on a Eckler entry. Marlon Mack isn't going to get involved at all. Darrell Henderson Jr. is a guy who I have in this tier, but I actually, here's the thing about Darrell Henderson Jr. I've been saving him to the end because I have a new tier for him. Tier 8, which is really above tier 7 and tier 6. Secretly, tier 8 is my tier called guy I think people are underrating, who's going to take over the backfield and screw someone over who picked Akers in the 3rd or 2nd round. Because Darrell Henderson has looked better than Akers. Akers has looked not as explosive. He's getting less yards per carry. Maybe he's fully healthy now, but Henderson looks better. I think he takes it over. I think everyone's looking at Henderson in that late round. I think everyone should, because I think Akers is going to be bad, and I think Henderson's going to take over that role. That's my tier list. Do with it what you will. At core, avoid some of those guys I was talking about, even if they're higher up in the tiers. That doesn't mean where he currently stands on my rankings. Like, just put that into account, because I don't own any Josh Jacobs. He's too high up, but I own a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I think his value is there later in the draft. So keep that in mind. Look at some of the sleepers. Look at some of those high upside rookies or 2nd year or 3rd year running backs I was talking about, and avoid some of those guys with a lot of question marks. Your Josh Jacobs, your Damian Harris's, the value isn't there. Yeah, that'll end my video. Thanks for watching. I hope you win your league, and have a great day, man.